Hello and welcome to my next reading series, Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. So I'm going to begin his autobiography, read a little bit about it. Count Leo Tolstoy was born on September 9th, 1828 in Yasnaya Polyana, Russia. Orphaned at 9, he was brought up by an elderly aunt and educated by French tutors until he matriculated at Kazan University in 1844. In 1847, he gave up his studies and, after several aimless years, volunteered for military duty in the army, serving as a junior officer in the Crimean War before retiring in 1857. In 1862, Tolstoy married Sophie Behrs, a marriage that was to become, for him, virtually unhappy. His diary, started in 1847, was used for self-study and self-criticism, and it served as the source from which he drew much of the material that appeared not only in his great novels, War and Peace and Anna Karenina, but also in his shorter works. Seeking religious justification for his life, Tolstoy evolved a new Christianity based upon his own interpretation of the Gospels. Yasnaya Polyana became a Mecca for his many converts. At the age of 82, while away from home, the writer's health broke down in Ostapova, Razyan, and he died there on November 20th, 1910. Book 1, Part 1, Chapter 1. Eh bien, Mon Prince, so Genoa and Lucca are now no more than family estates of the Bonapartes. No, I warn you, if you don't say that this means war, if you still permit yourself to condone all the infamies, all the atrocities of this Antichrist, and that's what I really believe he is, I will have nothing more to do with you. You are no longer my friend, my faithful slave, as you say. But how do you do? How do you do? I see that I'm frightening you. Sit down and tell me all about it. With these words, the renowned Anna Pavlovna Shira, lady-in-waiting and confidante to Empress Maria Fedorovna, greeted Prince Vasily, a man of high rank and office, who was the first to arrive at her soiree on a July evening in the year 1805. Anna Pavlovna had been coughing for several days after having had the grippe. As she said, grippe being a new word used only by the elite. Her notes of invitation, written in French and delivered that morning by a scarlet livery footman, were, without deception, all the same. If you have nothing better to do, Monsieur le Comte, or Mon Prince, and if the prospect of spending an evening with a poor invalid is not too frightening, I should be delighted to see you at my house between 7 and 10 this evening. Annette Sharia. Mon Dieu, what a scathing attack, the prince responded, not in the least disconcerted by this reception, as he came in wearing his embroidered court uniform, knee breeches, and low shoes, with stars on his breast and a serene expression on his flat face. He spoke that courtly French in which our grandparents not only spoke but thought, and in the bland, condescending tone characteristic of a man of consequence grown old in society and at court. He went up to Anna Pavlovna and, presenting his gleamy, perfumed bald head, kissed her hand and placidly seated himself on the sofa. First of all, tell me how you are, chérie amie. Set my mind at rest, he said, without altering his voice and intonation, beneath the politeness and concern of which could be detected indifference and even mockery. How can one be well when suffering morally? Do you think it is possible if one has any feeling, to remain calm in times like these?" asked Anna Pavlovna. "You are staying all evening, I hope. And the fete at the English ambassador's? Today is Wednesday. I must put in an appearance there," said the prince. "My daughter is coming for me and will take me there. I thought today's festivities had been cancelled. I must say, all these fetes and fireworks are beginning to pall. Had they known that you wished it, the fete would have been postponed," said the prince, like a wound-up clock, saying by force of habit things he did not even expect to be believed. "Don't tease me, ah bien. What has been decided in regards to Nova Solicitor's dispatch? Was savez tout?" "What can I tell you?" replied the prince in a cold, bored tone. "What has been decided? They have decided that Bonaparte has burned his boats, and I believe we're getting ready to burn ours." Prince Vasily always spoke listlessly, like an actor repeating a part in an old play. Anna Pavlovna Shera, on the contrary, was brimming with zest and animation. Despite her 40 years, to be an enthusiast had become a social attitude with her. And sometimes, even when she did not feel like it, she became enthusiastic in order not to disappoint the expectation of those who knew her. The discreet smile that continued played over her face and was incongruous with her faded features revealed, as in a spoiled child, a constant awareness of the charming defect she neither wished nor could not even found necessary to correct. In the midst of a conversation about politics, Anna Pavlovna burst out, "Oh, don't talk to me about Austria. It may be that I understand nothing at all of this. But Austria never has and never will want war. She is betraying us. Russia alone must be Europe's savior. Our benefactor is aware of his exalted calling and will be true to it. That is the one thing I have faith in. Our good and sublime sovereign is faced with undertaking the greatest role on earth, and he is so virtuous and noble that God will not forsake him, and he will fulfill his mission and crush the hydra of revolution, which has become more dreadful than ever in the person of this assassin and miscreant. We alone must expedite the blood of the righteous. With whom can we trust, I ask you? England, with her commercial spirit, will not understand, cannot understand, the absolute loftiness of the soul of the Emperor Alexander. She has refused to evacuate Malta. She has chosen to see, and even now is seeking, an ulterior motive for our actions. What did they say to Nova Solicitor? Nothing. Did they not understand? They are incapable of understanding the self-abnegation of our emperor, who wants nothing for himself but desires everything for the good of the world. What have they promised? Nothing. And what they have promised they won't perform. Prussia has already announced that Bonaparte is invincible, and that all Europe can do nothing to oppose him. And I don't believe one word that either Hardenberg or Hogswick says. That famous Prussian neutrality is nothing but a snare. I believe only in God and the exalted destiny of our gracious emperor. He will save Europe." She suddenly stopped and smiled wryly at her own furor. "I believe that if they had sent you," said the prince with a smile, "instead of our dear Winston Gerard, you would have taken the king of Prussia by storm and won his acquiescence. Will you give me some tea?" "At once. Apropos," she added, having grown calm again, "there will be two very interesting men here tonight. Le Vicomte de Mortemart, who was related to the Montmorencys through the Rohans, one of the best French families. He is one of the good émigrés, the genius one. And then the Abbé Morel. Are you acquainted with that profound intellect? He has been received by the emperor. Have you heard?" "Ah, I shall be delighted, said the prince. Tell me, he added, with elaborate casualness, as if the question he was about to ask had just occurred to him, when in fact it was the chief purpose of his visit. Is it true that the Dowager Empress wants Baron Funk to be appointed first secretary in Vienna? He's a poor specimen, that baron, by all accounts. Prince Vasily wanted to obtain this post for his son, but others were trying, through the Empress Maria Fyodorovna, to get it for the baron. Anna Pavlovna all but closed her eyes to signify that neither she nor anyone else could pass judgment on what the Empress might see fit or be pleased to do. Monsieur le Baron defunct was recommended to the Dowager Empress by her sister, was all she said in a dry, pained tone. The moment Anna Pavlovna spoke of the Empress, her face assumed an expression of deep, sincere devotion and respect tinged with melancholy, and this occurred every time she mentioned her illustrious patroness. Remarking that Her Majesty had been pleased to show Baron Funk beaucoup d'estime, again her gaze clouded over with melancholy. The prince lapsed into an impassive silence. Anna Pavlovna, with the quick wittiness and the tact natural to a courtier and a woman, wanted to give the prince a little rap on the knuckles for having the temerity to speak disparagingly of a man who had been recommended to the Empress. At the same time, she wanted to solace him. Mas à propos de vos familles, she said, you know that since your daughter came out, everyone has been delighted with her. She is considered a great beauty. The prince bowed to denote his respect and gratitude. I often think, continued Anna Pavlovna, after a momentary pause, smiling graciously and drawing nearer to the prince, as if to show him that the political and social talk was over and a more intimate conversation was about to begin. I often think how unfairly life's favors are appointed sometimes. Why has fate given you two? I, except your youngest, Anatole, whom I do not like, she interjected, raising her eyebrows and speaking in a peremptory tone, to such charming children. And really, you appreciate them less than anyone, so you don't deserve to have them. And she smiled her ecstatic smile. Que voulez-vous? I lack the bump of paternity, as Lavater would have said, retorted the prince. Stop joking. I wanted to have a serious talk with you. You know, I'm very displeased with your younger son. Between ourselves, her face assumed its melancholy expression. People have been talking about him at Her Majesty's, and feeling sorry for you. The prince said nothing, but she paused, gazing at him significantly as she waited for a reply. Prince Vasily frowned. What am I to do? He said at last. You know, I have done everything a father could do for their education, and they have both turned out thus imbeciles. Impolite is at least a temperate fool, but Anatole is troublesome. That is the only difference between them, he said, with a more animated and unnatural smile than usual, which quite distinctively revealed something unexpectedly coarse and disagreeable in the lines around his mouth. But why are children born to men like you? If you were not a father, I would have nothing to reproach you with, said Anna Pavlovna, looking up pensively. I am your faithful slave, and to you alone can I confess this. My children are the bane of my existence, my cross. That is how I explained it to myself. Que voulez-vous? He broke off with a gesture expressing his resignation to a cruel fate. Anna Pavlovna grew thoughtful. Have you ever thought of marrying off your prodigal son, Anatole? She asked. They say old maids have a mania for matchmaking. I have never been conscious of such a weakness in myself, however. I have a certain petite personne in mind who is very unhappy with her father, a relative of ours, a Princess Bokorsakaya." Prince Vasily made no reply, though with the memory and the rapidity of judgment characteristic of a man of the world he indicated, by a movement of the head, that he had taken and was considering this information. "Do you know that the boy cost me 40,000 a year?" he said, apparently unable to check the dismal course of his thoughts. He was silent for a moment, and then said, "If it goes on like this, what will it be in 5 years? The advantages of being a father. Is this princess rich?" "Her father is exceedingly rich and miserly. He lives in the country. The famous Prince Bolkonsky, you know, who was retired under the late emperor and nicknamed the King of Prussia. He's very clever, but eccentric, a difficult man. The poor girl is as unhappy as she can be. She has a brother, an aide-de-camp to Kosovo, who recently married Lisa Menin. He'll be here this evening." "Écoutez, chère Annette," said the prince, suddenly taking her hand, and for some reason bending it downward. "Arrange this matter for me, and I shall be your faithful slave forever. Slav, as my village elder writes in his reports to me. She's of a good family and rich. That's all I want." And with his characteristic familiarity and easy grace, he took the lady-in-waiting's hand, kissed it, gave it a little shake, and lolled back in his easy chair, his eyes gazing into space. "Attendez," says Anna Pavlovna, reflecting. "I'll speak to Lisa, young Bolkonsky's wife, this evening. Perhaps it can be arranged, so it will be in your family that I shall begin my apprenticeship as an old maid." And I'm going to leave it off there. Thank you for watching this series. Give it a thumbs up, a thumbs down. You can leave a comment below. You can subscribe, or you don't have to do anything, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.